Hi, I'm Ailish, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite places in the world, Jasper. I was able to live there for 4 months in the summer of 2019. While I was working, I was also able to immerse myself in the beautiful wilderness that is the Canadian Rockies. With lush, evergreen forests, crystal blue glacier lakes, and towering mountains everywhere you look, it was truly like paradise to me. Not to mention wildlife everywhere. It seemed that there was always a deer or elk outside of my window. There are many national and provincial parks in and around the Canadian Rockies, proving the importance of this area. Jasper National Park, located in west central Alberta along the BC border, is a part of the Montane Cordillera ecozone and characterized by its alpine and coniferous forest conditions with extensive mountain ranges. Elevation ranges from less than 1,000 to over 3,000 meters above sea level, causing stratification of distinct zones within this one ecozone. With increasing elevation comes transition from montane to subalpine to alpine regions. These zones are characterized by increasing precipitation and increasing coldness, providing unique species and topographic conditions in each. Most species, especially trees, cannot survive in colder conditions and higher elevations, but shrubs and lichens are types of species that can. Species distribution across the park is also characterized by soil conditions and nutrient availability, food availability, and competition with other species. This is why a majority of species are found at the lowest zone, the montane zone, as available niches are greater due to broader resource availability. The extensive diversity found within the park is responsible for many ecosystem services, including and most importantly, a large source of oxygen from trees and fresh water from the 4 glaciers throughout the park. When I first got to Jasper, I kept thinking of how remote and isolated it was. It seemed so untouched. The more time I've spent there and the more I have learned in this course, I'm realizing just how detrimental the effects of humans were on these amazing ecosystems. Succession, an ecological theory that we learn throughout this course, is the rate of recovery an ecosystem undergoes following a disturbance. There are two types: primary, in which major changes occur to substrate, creating new top ground conditions. The other is secondary, in which there are major changes to living organisms. Jasper National Park, despite having severe conservation plans, is undergoing both types of succession. What's an example of primary succession and its consequences? Well, currently, due to a changing global climate, Jasper's solid water stores like Athabasca Glacier are melting, and this has a serious ecosystem consequence. This is the sound of a stream running from said melting glacier. Melting glaciers result in soil and rock erosion, stripping the park of available nutrients for primary producers who compose the foundation of the trophic webs in the park, leading to bottom-up consequences. Melting ice also increases sea level, but first increases the volume and power of rivers on the way to the ocean, which has possible erosion effects as well. Secondary succession occurs in the park through forest fires, the sound currently being played. These naturally occurred on a 16-year full succession cycle, which has recently been broken. In the early 1900s, when the park was founded, fire use became heavily restricted within the park. Throughout the following decades to present day, fire use has been suppressed to maintain not only the ecosystem, but to ensure safety for people within the park. Fires naturally offer the availability to remove old trees and allow new ones to grow. Stricter fire control means that there's less removal of these dead, dry trees, raising safety concerns. If an uncontrollable fire comes through, it will spread much quicker and put many people and animals' lives at risk. Over the last decade, the introduction of the invasive mountain pine beetle has killed a magnitude of coniferous pine trees, leaving many deceased trees left in the park, increasing forest fires. The mountain pine beetle not only affects tree mortality, but results in higher effects of the trophic webs by reducing ecosystem services from trees, including oxygen, food, and habitats for other organisms. This photo here showcases the early succession of the Moline Valley area after a large fire in 2015. The Moline Valley is located less than 20 kilometers away from the town. The red trees here in the Moline Valley are the ones affected by the mountain pine beetle. The Canadian government has allocated almost $7 million for mountain pine beetle research to find effective ways of removing pine beetles to reduce fire risk and improve tree populations and therefore the whole ecosystem. There are other forms of human activity that are causing disturbances to the park. There are approximately 2.5 million visitors a year in Jasper National Park. This would be considered a consistent disturbance to the ecosystem and results in depletion of resources, increasing in pollution and degradation of the physical land. Human activity causes behavioral changes in animals due to fragmentation of land. This occurs from urbanization, extension of highway systems, and human foot traffic scaring and harming important species like the grizzly bear, the top predator of this ecosystem, and caribou, an important threatened species. These cases of disturbances in Jasper National Park stress the importance of efficient park management techniques. Succession is a natural course of action for ecosystems and will benefit them in the long run by allowing for young species to regenerate, but too much human influence is causing harm to the park in the long run. Other conservation methods being put in place to help maintain protected areas include incorporating Indigenous voices to the conversation of conservation, similarly to what we learned about two-eyed seeing. Jasper National Park is located on both Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 land, and in 1910, 3 years after the park was established, locals from over 20 Indigenous and Métis groups were kicked off of Jasper's land in order to establish the park for tourism, blocking access to the land and their ancestors had lived on for centuries. Since then, Parks Canada has worked towards establishing relationships with Indigenous leaders and communities in order to better conserve and sustain parks for the benefit of all. In 2005, the Jasper Indigenous Forum and Indigenous Relations Office was created to offer opportunities to improve park management, conservation, and facilitating Indigenous perspectives in economic and community actions. A specific means of action for conservation Jasper has taken is through Indigenous interpretation programs. Indigenous interpreters offer informational guides to tourists about the park history and ecology as a means to educate and connect visitors with the park's importance. Going forward, continuing to prioritize education of and respect for this amazing land we protect in more efficient ways is important for its survival. It is important to truly listen to what Jasper needs with help from an array of experts, because if you try hard enough, you can hear an amazing world. I know, because I did.